CEO, Simon Maggi, good morning, who has been in this field for many years. He was with AmCham, the American Chamber, so he understands the terrain very, very well, and is leading GIPC in attracting investments into the country. As a board, we give strategic direction, policy and strategic direction, and representing the vision of His Excellency the President at GIPC.
Right. In terms of the key numbers we're speaking of, right, some $2.61 billion in terms of FDI inflows were recorded for 2025. It's up from the $652 million in 2024. In terms of existing and new projects registered, we're speaking about some 253. In terms of announced future investment as well, $5 billion plus, and portions for reinvested earnings about $1.83 billion. I mentioned these specific figures because it appears there's some marked improvement from the figures in 2024. Right. That obviously will be attributed to the leadership. But how have you managed to, I don't want to use the word turn around, in terms of, because government is a continuum, right? But this is a new administration and we've seen the figures improved. How have you managed to do that from the 650 we were seeing to about 2.6 billion for 2025?
You see, investors go where their investment is not threatened. And that means that there is political stability, regulations ensure that contracts are safe and not subject to the whims and caprices of any individual. So riding on the stability of the economy and the confidence in leadership of the country, we have been able to attract more investments.
Right.
So that's where the catch is, that there's some level of confidence in our governance system, in leadership, in the way the economy is being managed, and the measures that have been put in place by GIPC to attract and facilitate investments in the country.
But when we look at that 2.6 billion number, right, the data also suggests to us that of that number, up to 1.83 billion was reinvested earnings, right? And so it brings a question as to whether there is a struggle to get new investors coming in or attracting new ones, because a lot of this as well is reinvestment by existing entities already.
Yes. If the existing entities do not have confidence in the leadership, in the governance of the country, they will be repatriating their profits outside. They may even be moving outside the country, as happened in the past.
We saw businesses move to neighboring countries.
Neighboring countries, yes. But if they are reinvesting, then it means there's something going on that they like. It's not just for pleasure that an investor will carry their capital into a country and say, we want to invest here. They want to go where their investments are safe. So it means there's something good happening in the country. That's why they are reinvesting.
And so something good is happening. How are we working to have that attract a lot more in terms of new investment as well? Because I've seen there's been shows done in the past where GNPC is going out seeking to court new investors to come into the jurisdiction as well.
Right. So it's a continuous process. You don't just sit back because there are investors coming in and those in are reinvesting. You continue to present the opportunities here outside to attract more investors, because we need investors in many fields. So we continue to do that, and if you are following, there's been quite a number of investment pitches with travels by His Excellency the President. Our team will go along with him and then present the opportunities in Ghana. And if you are still observing closely, you realize that it's not just the investment promotion and the shows.
Right.
Deals are happening with the investment, and that's a good thing. That even before the team leaves those countries, deals are signed, and there's something that we need to appreciate.
I'm just going to stay on the investment numbers just a little while with you, and then we can move, because now the understanding is that it will be an authority and no longer a center, and what that could mean going forward as well. Going down into the numbers just a bit more, we realized that about $1 billion of what we saw, as significant as it was down to the petroleum sector, for instance. If we strip the petroleum sector of it, then the non-oil investment then becomes open for all to see. What is the plan for, in long term, for diversification as well?
Exactly.
of the non-oil sector as well, so we can see equally improved growth in that regard?
Right. So over the years, when we talk about investments, it's more tilted towards the extractive industries. And these are capital intensive, so
Absolutely.
you hear huge amounts of funds flowing in and increasing our GDP, but then it's not labor intensive. Capital intensive, but not labor intensive. That's where we have the challenge of issues of unemployment.
Absolutely, which is one of the crux of the conversation.
So the president announced a policy of natural resource sovereignty, and in this, to sum it up, we are looking more at diversification, value addition, processing of raw materials into finished goods for export. That's where we can generate that kind of employment opportunities and more wealth for the nation.
Absolutely.
So as we roll out these processes, we are looking more of attracting investors in those supply chain strands for various sectors, agric and others.
And are we seeing investment? Are investors catching on to this new direction in which we want to go in, or we're yet to see them begin to come in wanting to latch on to where we're headed towards as a country now?
Absolutely, there's a lot of interest in for instance, if you go to the metals, gold, investors are interested in refining, processing, jewelry, and all that. As we speak now, there's a team it's a jewelry investment company that's interested in engaging our side to be able to set up. We have others also coming in food processing. So across the various sectors, there's a growing interest, and that's where we are focusing, because that will generate more wealth and create more job opportunities.
Right. Just on the last bit on the amount we see, we saw that contribution from the U.S. in terms of investment, around 51 million in terms of terms. Some will say it's modest, considering that we have a bilateral agreement of some sort, an investment treaty framework with the U.S. We will see a bit more in terms of U.S. direct investment in the country. In the past, we've had concerns as to some monies we are supposed to have been paying them for some services and all of that. I think I recall the former ambassador, Virginia Palmer, raising those concerns that they were seeking to stop certain aid and what have you. Has that impeded in any way the sort of investment we should be seeing from the U.S. coming into the country?
Well, these days, with the global shifts, we are looking at where we'll get the maximum benefits from investment opportunities. So we are not going to just sit back and say we have a challenge here and we continue looking at a closed door or a door that is not opening wide enough for us to engage. We are engaging all countries, engaging all entities that will buy into what we have to offer.
Right. You're still with us here on 3FM 92.7. Our guest in studio this morning is Dr. Opon Fusu, is the board chair of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, which we understand will be an authority in the coming days. That transition from GIPC to GIPA, which will probably give you the name GIPA, right? It's been described as progressive in terms of investment laws to be passed in recent decades. What changes, right, when we move from center to authority? What changes for a person who's seeking to come and invest into the country Ghana?
Well, as we all know, when an entity becomes an authority, it has some powers of regulation and enforcement. So moving to that entity as an authority gives the GIPC more authority to deal with certain situations in terms of regulations, in terms of the mandate to deal with certain situations. GIPC is not only promoting, it also facilitates and also assists entities that invest in some of the challenges they face when they are in the country. So a lot of things are going to happen with GIPC as an authority. And in the law, certain clauses which were previously in the GIPC will be reviewed, like the capital requirement.
That's a big part of the conversation. Yeah, capital requirement.
Capital requirement that becomes a disincentive and does not attract investors. All these are going to be reviewed, and in terms of trade, we have 6 restricted areas. It used to be 8, but 2 have been removed. And expatriates quota and all that. So there are new things happening with the GIPA, which will make investment flows more than we have now.
At the heart of it is a concern by traders, right? Ghanaian traders about the review of the quotas and investment requirements, amongst many others, that it will open up the space for persons to come in and crowd out Ghanaians. Already what people rely on mostly is that part of the existing legislation which prevents persons from going into retail trade and a minimum requirement of about 1 million cedis thereabout. There's that fear that if that is reviewed in this new acts or this new bill currently, then you take away the protection for local businesses.
Yeah, that has been the concern, but we also need to build that partnership between our local businesses and the foreign investors, something that we've not actually paid attention to over the years, that to the extent that it makes our local businesses weaker. And even in terms of competition at the global level, we are not up to it. If we and that's some of the things that will be done to support our local businesses to grow, not to feel threatened by an incoming entity, but to grow in a way that they'll be seen more as partners. Build partnerships between the foreign investor coming in and the local entities. That's a way to address some of these concerns of theirs.
So in addressing the concern, I think at the bane of it is that, look, my normal retail business, because already we see Guta going onto the streets, going into the markets and saying that they are closing Nigerian shops, they are closing shops because they don't meet the minimum requirements. The concern is that for persons within that space, what will investment look like which can translate into meeting global standards? They feel this is just removing the protection they enjoy, and it could have them, like I said again, crowded out, because taxi services, menial trade, shops, stores, already there are claims of fronting in some of these places, like when you go to Makola and the likes, the suspicion is that Ghanaians are fronting for foreigners. So if we remove that protection, then they will no longer even need the services of persons who front for them. They will come and you see the Chinese owning the store, you see the Asians owning the stores, and then they are selling from there.
So instead of fronting, why not build your capacity so that you don't go in front, but you have that business? So the missing link here is that we are not even looking at building ourselves up, but rather fronting for an entity and pretending that it's the way to go. If you want to be in the business, why don't you be in the business and build yourself up? Engage government for the support systems so that you own a business and compete, rather than you have the capacity in terms of the local knowledge, but not the necessary support to stand on your own, but will rather front. These things are happening. So why not just remove this kind of arrangement of Ghanaians fronting for foreign entities whilst we are deceiving ourselves that it's for Ghanaians, but in actual fact, it's not for Ghanaians.
At the heart of that as well will be ready because the concern is the foreigners will come in with a lot more cash. They have the money. They can raise the standard to a level where the ordinary Ghanaian cannot. And so if this were to happen, they will come in readily with a bit more in terms of the finances, will then begin to own all of the stores, and then the Ghanaian will be left out.
So how are they able to raise the funds
at this stage
and crowd Ghanaians out and take over? We have the financial systems here. So what I am saying is that the businesses need to organize themselves and engage the various institutions that will provide that support for them to be on their feet. Just like this entity, some come in without capital. We know some come in here with very little, but with time, they grow very big because they are able to raise the funds from the financial institutions here. Why not the Ghanaians?
That means the Ghanaians should be able to do same.
Same. I try to understand that kind of scenario where some of these companies start small, these foreign companies. We know where they start from. With time, they are in estate development. They are in certain areas that initially were not part of their business. What do you call it? Yeah. The businesses that they initially started to do in the country. Area of businesses. They are everywhere. Because they see the gap that Ghanaians are not failing.
And they are seeking to take advantage
take over. Till they do that, then the Ghanaians will say they are crowding us out. So this is a conversation that local entrepreneurs, private businesses, Ghanaian-owned companies should have with government and the financial institutions.
Since you mentioned with government, I'll ask whether there's been some conversations as the bill has been put together with these respective groups. GUTA, for instance, who are very central in all of it. Has there been a conversation where this has been explained to them in that regard? Because there could be resistance in the future if we look at it.
Well, the various stakeholders have been part of this conversation to have the bill go through Parliament and having the Parliament's approval of it. It went through all the processes with the various stakeholders. It's now left with the assent of the president, and it becomes law.
Yeah. All right. In the new law, we see grievance mechanism being introduced. It pretty much suggests there hasn't been something like that in existence. How has that affected or impacted negatively as well on investors and being able to have investors come in? Because if you come in and there's no mechanism which addresses grievance, then it suggests you're on your own to a great extent.
Yeah, there is an aftercare, a directorate for aftercare, like supporting businesses, investors to navigate the challenges and all that. But this has gone some steps higher with the grievance mechanism, such that, as you can see from the law, there are some timelines to which certain grievances have to be resolved. It makes it more authentic. It brings order and enforcement to, if it has to do with land, if it has to do with dispute over contracts, the law provides that the authority intervenes and ensures that the investor is not unduly put in a certain situation that affects their business.
Right. On that score, we know that you've revised a number of the fees and charges as well, GIPC, in terms for 2026, right? And so the registration fees include some 17,650 for wholly owned Ghanaian trading institutions, CD equivalent of $3,500 for joint ventures, 5,250 for foreign. I mean, I could go through all of the list. In revising this at a time where we are trying to attract new investment, is this boosting investor confidence, or is it not making the country expensive to enter?
No, I don't think so, because there are other aspects that attract investors. You have your unimpeded repatriation of profits. This is huge, and so far, investors talk among themselves. They know of the situation, and they have the confidence that when I invest in spite of all these registration processes and all that, I make my profit and I repatriate. This really is not such a huge disincentive.
It's not a huge disincentive. Right. I'm just going to take us back to our new direction as a country, right, where we're seeking to nationalize a lot of the investment. The concern has been that, look, that could scare away investors and it position us in a position where we are anti-investment, because when you come in after a while and you develop the space, Ghana will say that we want to take over it. And particularly within the mining space, for instance, when we sought to do a number of things in that regard, we saw international platforms reporting on stories about how it was going to make Ghana a very expensive investment, particularly within the mining space. That certainly has been concerns which has come to your attention. How have you been seeking to address that and allay the fears of investors as well? Or are we beginning to see a negative impact already since we began to take this approach?
Not as far as I know, because even then, we still have investors coming in to explore opportunities in the mining sector.
Right.
So this is really not a scare. People will try to make huge issues out of it because the global economic order is structured in that way that certain countries produce raw materials. If you want to shift that, it certainly will meet some resistance. And that favors the rich industrialized nations because we are the source of the raw materials. But if we now want to say that we want to process the raw materials ourselves, definitely there will be a resistance. But that does not mean that the private investor has issues with that. They want to invest. If they invest and they have to sell the gold in Ghana for us to process, theirs is to sell the gold. And the gold price anywhere is the same. So if they mine here and Ghana says no raw materials, gold is going out, we want finished goods to be exported from this country, and we are refining and processing into the various products, so be it. But definitely there will be some reaction, and that's some of the reactions we read in the media. But
you believe if they stay on, they'll be better for it in the long run.
92.7.
Absolutely, they won't lose anything. They've mined the gold. They have the concessions. They've mined the gold, and we say the gold stays here and not leaving in its raw form. We are not saying we are taking over your mines and taking over your investment. Do your job, but the products stay here. So that's what it means with the national resource sovereignty. We want to treat it the way that will benefit Ghanaians, the way that will benefit the country. That was China's economic model, which they effectively implemented, and China is where it is today. When they said no natural resources will live here without processing it into finished products for the market. That was China's economic model. So you invest here, you bring in technology, you do technology transfer, education, skills development, and all that in the contract. Then they took over from there with research and development. And from that stage, they built China into what it is today.
Right. Is that the approach we are taking as well? Because I see from the 2025 figures, China leads the way with 70 out of the 253 projects in the country. There's a concern as to over-concentration. If there's a concern that there will be an over-concentration in terms of Chinese interest within the investment space in the country.
Well, China has an approach which is different from the West, the Western countries, with their conditions of governance and a lot of things. But China is not into a country's how they govern themselves. They are interested in their contract.
Right.
The contract that they sign, will it favor China or not? So if it's a win-win, the countries they are signing contracts with are comfortable, they go ahead. They don't meddle in politics of a country. So that's why you see China everywhere. They don't talk about a country's internal politics and who is more democratic
and who is not,
should stay, and term limits and all those things. No, they don't go into those areas.
And so the technology transfer bit as well, in terms of the agreement and the investments that we're seeing come through, because if there's anything, you've spoken to their module, which has made them what they are today. Are we seeking to receive investment along those lines as well, or are the investments which are coming through also seeking to transfer technology and knowledge Absolutely. As well to us?
Yeah, that's our approach, to have investment with skills development and local content and all that, so that at the end of the day we can take off from there with skilled youth who can carry on in those sectors.
Looking at the numbers, right, and I've stayed a lot on the 2025 numbers. 500 million from the Cayman Islands. I mean, in our part of the world, when you hear Cayman Islands, a lot of eyebrows are raised as to beneficial ownership and fronting for persons who are seeking to do things here and there. Does the GIPC have the tools and the mandate to look through beneficial ownership structures and understand who is ultimately controlling these major investments in the country?
Yeah, all these are vetted. Certainly, the Registrar General and other institutions have a role to play in ensuring that any investor coming in is not coming from a source that will be problematic to the country. Yeah. They are vetted. That's why we have national security and all these agencies. They have a role.
And so anybody picks up the report and sees $500 million in terms of investment directly from the Cayman Islands, theirs is to trust that we're not having shady individuals funding investment into the country and seeking to control Ghanaian interest in Ghana as well.
Yeah, the sources of inflows are really checked. These sources are checked, yeah. Otherwise, we'll have all kinds of entities hiding behind organized crime to bring in investment. In the name of investment, bring in some resources here. And this is not what a government will want to deal with. Any government where it's sought will not be prepared to deal with situations like that. So sources of all these funds are vetted. If you want to come and invest, you say have 3 billion, and you want to invest, the source will be vetted.
We host the headquarters of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. We've positioned ourselves as the hub for investment. What is the selling factor for us? What makes us different? When we sit in a room of investors, what makes us stand out against Rwanda, Cote d'Ivoire, and the likes, which gives us a unique selling proposition as compared to the others?
Ghana is stable in terms of governance, the peace and stability that we enjoy is something that investors will be attracted to. When there is instability, it scares investors in the sense that most times people think that, once you have tax incentives, you attract investors. It's just a small part of it. The investor wants to be assured of their agreements, their contracts, that a country which is unstable
3FM 92.7
can affect their investment, in the sense that one day there is an upheaval and there is a change, and a contract is abrogated by decree. They don't want to be in a situation like that. They also want to trust the institutions, such that when there are disputes between parties before them, they will have a fair ruling. All this add up to the confidence of an investor entering a country. So when we meet as as a committee of nations and with investors, and they want to select where they have to go, all this will come as favorable indicators for Ghana.
And the AFCFTA desks which we've created, how well have they done as well to bring in the required needed investment and also have us remain at the top when these multinationals are wanting to take advantage of the new trade agreement we have on the continent?
Yes, when you host a headquarters like that, it gives you that added quality in terms of your standing within the Committee of Nations. Why would this important headquarters be cited
3FM
in Ghana? It means there's something that we have that will make the other nations trust us to host this headquarters. So it works for us to have after here. Yeah.
I want us to enter into the realms of how all of this translates into jobs and tangibles for the Ghanaian people. But my guest in the studio is Dr. Oponfosu. He is the board chair of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, soon to be Ghana Investment Promotion Authority, and we've been speaking about that and what that means for investors and even the Ghanaians involved. There's a question that's just come through in relation to movement from promotion center to promotion authority, and perhaps I'll just want to highlight that, because when you were speaking earlier, you made reference to the fact that one of the things that investors will enjoy is the easy repatriation of their investment outside of the jurisdiction. That has always come with a bit of a challenge because it comes with extra pressure on our currency, because they have to look for foreign exchange to do that. And there's been suggestions as to having them retain a bit more of the investment here instead of immediately seeking to repatriate that. Is that within the focus of the conversation of the new authority, of the new bill which will make it an authority? One, and then the concern as well that, well, the foreigners are able to take away very easily, but for locals, they are not able to do same and even attract extra investment as well. Is the new bill going to take care of that as well for them?
Well, that has not been captured in the bill.
In the bill.
3FM.
In terms of retaining a bit more. Or the second part of the question is what you are seeking to answer first.
The
first part about
whether the bill is taking care of having of the repatriation.
Yes, is it in the contemplation of the, when it becomes an authority, is it in the contemplation that yes, we are allowing them repatriate, but because of the negatives sometimes, which brings pressure on the city, leads to the depreciation and what of that, what have you, was seeking to relook that, and not a legislation which forces them to keep, but conversations which allow them keep a bit more.
No, that would be a different conversation, but as of now, it's not something that we are looking at in the law. No.
But for our locals who are seeking to invest as well outside, does the GIPC help as well, provide a bit more in terms of support on that aspect? Then we can zoom into what this translates into for jobs.
What we are looking at is to support our local entrepreneurs, businesses, to build a capacity to upscale and be competitive at the global level.
Right.
In the same way that they will have the capacity to partner foreign investors. That's the focus. That's the focus.
That is what the focus is. Right. Doug, when someone who is listening to us this morning hears 2.61 billion in foreign investment in 2025, a question that will come to them is, okay, how does this translate into jobs immediately? How directly does GIPC track the employment as have been created by this investment? How do you respond to someone who is thinking along these lines this morning?
So I said initially that over the years, the investment flows have been tilted towards the extractives. And you hear huge amounts of monies. That is capital in equipment, in the extractive equipment that are used on the mine. So the job creation in that sector
is minimum.
Minimum.
Yeah.
In the sense that they are looking more at a kind of professionals as against the mass employment that we are thinking. So the skill set is a major challenge in these arrangements.
Right.
That's why we are pushing more for diversification. But whilst we are at it, we need to also invest more in skills development so that when we have investment in the value chain, we'll have people with the skill set to be able to
3FM
work in those areas.
92.7.
For instance, in agribusiness, now it's become technology driven.
There was an area I was going to come to even, but...
Right, technology driven. Do we have the skill set for that? Even though there will be job opportunities if we go full hog in agric and agribusiness. all the way to packaging, logistics, and all that. These are huge.
The potential is there. It's very
but
huge.
we have not tapped into that. So this is just a line of one area that can generate the jobs for our teeming youth who are unemployed.
And it's important you mention it because agriculture and agribusiness, for instance, is an area where the potential is there. It hasn't been tapped. In fact, yesterday I was reading somewhere that Netherlands had become the world's second largest producer of food. And that has been largely as a result of the use of technology. They've been able to reduce the use of pesticides and all of that. And so they don't use chemicals to control pests and all of that.
Right.
And it's been largely technology driven
yeah.
and all of that. When we look at the agribusiness value chain, for instance, are we looking at an area like Netherlands and seeking to have them come in with the technology and the investment as well, because we have the land and we have all of the tools to make agriculture and agribusiness thrive as well. Is that a focus for GIPC as well? The conversation of agribusiness.
Yeah. So when if you follow the
3FM
investment pitches that GIC has been doing for some time now, you realize that it's more strategic. We are targeting certain countries and certain areas that we believe will make more impact in terms of job creation and wealth creation. So this is one of the areas we are looking at in conjunction with the 24-hour Economy Secretariat, working hand in hand in various strategic areas. So these are ongoing initiatives that GIPC is looking at.
So there are things which are being worked on.
Yes,
as we speak, and
absolutely.
Because you are the board chair, I may want to pin you down in terms of timelines, right? Into seeing this, because at the heart of all of it, the question will be asked whether you're looking at just investment or investments and job creation. Yeah.
So, if you remember during the campaigning, we were talking about 133 and that kind of thing, and job creation is in the center of that. So, for the president to appoint a presidential advisor on the 24-hour economy, it means that it's a top priority for him. And that secretariat is working in conjunction with all those entities that have something to do with the productivity that we are envisaging that will create the jobs. So it's in the pipeline. A lot of work is ongoing, and we hope that we will be able to achieve that mandate and the pledges of the government.
Outside of agribusiness, right, and we're seeking the nationalization and retention of natural resources and adding value to it. We've spoken about the extractive sector. We've touched on agribusiness. What are the other areas in which the investment potentials lie, which there are skills which immediately can translate into job creation as well for young people?
Areas in IT, digital transformation, AI. We are looking at the creative arts, where some appointments have been made. Health sector, I know that there's a move towards having a health tourism approach.
Health tourism approach in the country.
Yeah, like that's of other countries where health tourism is very high on their economic transformation. So there are areas that are being considered to create the space and opportunities for employment.
You mentioned IT, AI, the 1 million coders. It's one of the government flagship programs. It will produce about 1 million trained, skilled persons with IT knowledge base and all of that. Are we targeting investment in readiness for when these persons graduate, such that there's a seeming link as the government is training? Because in some areas, I've heard you mention that because of a lack of skills readily, it's proving a disincentive of some sort for investment to immediately come in. But now we're seeing us train 1 million persons in coding, AI, and others. Are we seeing the corresponding attempts to bring in investors as well to meet at that point of need, such that we don't train 1 million persons, they're ready and waiting, and the direct investment has not come in to create the enabling environment for us to take advantage of it?
So when we are talking about, I always use business as the reference point. We are talking about that. And we all know that these days is technology driven.
Right.
And investors come and are investing in various aspects of the value chain. And we don't have those with the skills. What it means is that they will be coming along with their own staff that will push more of our youth out of the job market. So it's when we are training the youth in all these skills, is to make them ready for opportunities.
Right.
Yeah. So it's these initiatives are all going to work in tandem when we get to the point where investors are in. We have our own local investors who can also take advantage of this trained, skilled youth to be able to start on their own.
I'll venture into other aspects for the politics and others, but just a few more questions in relation to GIPC, and then I can do that. On the international scale, there's been quite the news. We were speaking about the one in relation to our decision on extractives and what have you, but the Ghanaian story still remains very positive. Evidence of the $2.61 billion in terms of foreign direct investment. There's another piece of news that continues to garner a lot of negativity. This year, cyber-related crimes and what have you have dominated for a very long time. Do these come as challenges, right, in terms of the grand scheme of things, of being able to convince persons that fraudsters have been arrested, persons engaged in cybercrime and its related activities? Do they pose challenges in conversations surrounding investment and whether or not persons should bring investment into the country?
Well, this is a global challenge. Cyber crimes, especially with economic crimes, are global challenges. It's not. We tend to blow some of these incidents out of proportion, but they could be worse, or there are worse cases than what we experience here, especially when we hear the FBI is in to arrest some Ghanaians. It gives the impression that it's all about Ghana and cyber related crime and all that. But it's a global issue, and investors are aware that it's something that they need to safeguard their investments against. When they set up their systems, they factor that in to ensure that they are not caught in this grand scheme of things. It's a global issue. So if you follow the technology sector, they build systems, robust systems, to ensure that their systems are not compromised. These are all part of the new challenges we face with technology.
And so, an investor is listening to us this morning. We're speaking to the board chair of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. They have $50 million in terms of investments worth, right, which they are seeking to put into the Ghanaian economy. Where should they be looking at? Why should they be looking at Ghana as well?
To invest?
Yes.
I will recommend in the agri sector.
The agri sector?
Agri sector, yeah. The potential is huge. And we import, years ago, we didn't used to import certain foods, but now we are a net importer of food. So here there's a huge opportunity to venture into the agri sector.
Right. Look, you're an appointee, you're a presidential appointee leading one of Ghana's most strategically important institutions. I mean, the sheer amount of investment brought in from last year almost reaches about $400 million difference, and then it reaches all of the money we received from the IMF when we went to them somewhere 2022, 2023. At the same time, the conversation is that you're seeking to lead the NDC as well as its next national chairman. How are you doing the two things at the same time?
That's an interesting one.
The Inquisitor captured you succinctly.
No, there was a platform did a polls on possible contenders, and I think that's what the Inquisitor has reported.
Your name came up strongly.
Yeah, very interesting one. I've not declared, but the results is quite interesting.
Interesting in what sense? That it gives you a footing to stand on and begin to consider throwing your heart into the race?
Not exactly. I have not declared, as I've mentioned with some stations, media houses that brought this up during our conversations, just like we are doing now, and then it comes up. I said I have not declared intentions yet, but there are some consultations going on. And I also said that maybe some 3 months back, that would not have even come up till recently when I was approached by various people
within the party. You know, as like in a family, there are groupings, just like in a party. But the interesting aspect is that it appeared most of the groupings, I don't believe they might have met, but they have me in mind. So separate groups who have not met, have not had any conversation.
No, at all.
Are having your name pop up.
Yeah. And out of those meetings, individuals are tasked to see me for a conversation. That's how it started. And I have maintained that I'm in to serve, but I need to go through the processes properly. I'm a systems person. I believe in structures. I believe in hierarchy, that you don't undermine structures. So I engaged various leaders of the party. And I also mentioned that at the right time, when I complete the process, I'll make a declaration.
In terms of the persons you're consulting, are you speaking to the current national chairman? Because the conversations around suggest he might not contest again for that position. That's what
most of the people who came to have a discussion with me said. I have not engaged him yet, so I wouldn't be in the position to know whether he's contesting or not. That's one issue. The second is that the other time I was asked whether if I decide to
if he decides to contest,
if I meet him and he says he will contest, will I contest against him? And I said, no, that's not the way to put it, because as soon as nominations are called, nobody is contesting against anyone. It's an open race.
Right.
And I saw someone listened in to that conversation and did a publication that I'll contest the chairmanship race, whether Asiru Ketia contests or not. I've also said that it's not personal ambitions. It's not personalities. It's institutions that we are building. Institutions that will outlast individuals. So we don't do this with individual personal ambitions in mind.
Right.
We look at what will inure to the benefit of the entire organization.
If I'm to draw any inference from how you're speaking, it would suggest your heart is in this, and when nominations are open, after consultations are done, we will see you in that race. Is that a fair conclusion to draw from my interaction with you this morning?
I do things not for convenience but conviction. If I have the conviction that being in this will inure to the benefit of the NDC as a party that have invested all my years of service in, I'll go ahead with it. But if it will not, then there will be no need for me to engage in it. I'm saying this because we are in the politics of convenience, where the shift of the national consciousness has moved from patriotism, nation building, stewardship in leadership to more of individualistic approaches.
Are these things you see within your NDC now, even as we speak?
The national consciousness, the mindset now is individualism, opportunism, and leadership for personal gain. This is the broad stroke, the mindset of how Ghanaians perceive and involve in politics as a shortcut. That's not for me. So, and the conversations we've had is that the NDC as a social democratic party founded on the principles of probity, accountability, and social justice, opportunities for all, in which anyone can aspire to any position. Over the years, that's what it was, such that You don't need to be in the center in Accra to get to a certain position. People have, over the years, come from far away, remote. Yes, that was who we were. And we see the shifts.
Right.
So if my involvement were aligned with these values, then, as you said, my heart will be in it. But it is a business as usual. I will not be in it. So I want to broaden the consultations,
right,
and come to a conclusion that this is right for me to do. This will put the NDC where it belongs and not where it is drifting to.
Where is it drifting to?
Like what we all see in politics as usual. Politics is business, as some people say.
Persons within the party now are more focused on their individual pockets and the business that they will enjoy rather than the values of the party. As you're in power now,
there's a disconnect. The grassroots complain, and they complain about opportunities that they don't have access to leadership and all that. So many things are happening. These are the conversations we've been having, and we need to ensure that we don't
3FM
go over the edge.
2.7.
So that's what it is for me.
Is there fear what happened to the NPP could happen to the NDC? Because that was a complaint at some point as well for members of the NPP that, look, there's a disconnect, the party is not listening to us, we can't access the leaders, what are the jobs you promised us, and all of that.
I'm telling you that the conversations that have gone on ever since this approach started has been centering around that if we are not careful, we might go the way the MPP went. And when that happens, like when we were case, there was Humpty Dumpty sitting on the wall. Yeah.
Having a great fall.
Great fall. And when that great fall happens, it becomes very difficult to put things together. You see how the NPP is struggling to put the factions together because the disconnect was so intense, and we are finding it difficult to build trust. So whilst we're at it, we need to build it now. So that's what the conversation is about, and we will keep on engaging and come to some conclusion about this matter. Then I'll give a declaration.
Right. Doc, it's been wonderful talking to you, hearing you speak to the GIPC, soon to be GIPA, and the ambitions as well. You've been a bit quiet, but my inference suggests that we will see you in that race as and when the national executives announce it.
Very soon we'll get to that.
Right. My guest in studio is Dr. Kwesi Opon-Fosu. He's the board chair of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. He's joined us this morning for a wonderful conversation. Doc, I am thankful that you joined us in studio this morning.